Hello and welcome back to the Inside Football podcast. My name is Andy Taylor and I'm joined by Stuart and Isaac as always, as we are looking to break down the BUCS action from the list last weekend, week 5. We'll look ahead to week 6 and as always, we will nitpick, we will break down, we will pull apart the writers' poll and all the disagreements and all the agreements and all the averages. We will absolutely do that because we've got plenty to talk about this week for sure when it comes to those results that have come in. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of debate about what that's going to do to our writers' poll, opinion poll, whatever you want to call it. I dare say we're experts. I saw someone called us experts. I was like, no, we're definitely not. But we're just the ones who are willing to give our opinion, aren't we? But no, nonetheless, fascinating weekend this last weekend. Let's get straight into it, shall we? Let's have a little look to see what happened in the Premiership tier with really fascinating results that have come out of here. We didn't get NTU versus Newcastle, unfortunately. There was quite a number of results, rain affected, wind affected over the weekend, but I think we've got to start at that top fixture, haven't we, Isaac, in the Durham, took it to Loughborough. We talked about this, in quite a bit of detail about what this might mean. 69-12 to Durham in the end. That is some questions answered, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 100% that. It's a question, are they going to be able to match what Notts and Newey have done? And, they've shown that they have, and they can match what they've done so far this season. They're a strong team. I think, they've got a plethora of scholars and American recruits coming over, but no, they look like now they're a well-coached, well-oiled machine, and they can, challenge really for them top 2 spots.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Stuart, was it as surprising to you as it was to me, this type of result?
I don't think so. I don't sort of after what we saw them do to Leeds Beckett last week. I know it's a completely different animal in terms of Beckett and Loughborough, but I don't think that scoreline is sort of a surprise to me. I'm really looking forward to what's coming this weekend to see what happens between Bullets and Saints. But yeah, this kind of puts Durham up there for me in terms of the writers' poll and estimations and where they can go. And you were talking a couple of weeks ago, and we've spoken about someone breaking into that top 2. Well, maybe this year we might have a contender in this purple or Palatine, I think they call it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what the contest is like this weekend as well.
100%, and I'm pretty sure we'll break that down in a little while as we look at the fixtures for week 6, and obviously we've got the writers' poll and what effect this will have. So if we have a little look further south, Isaac, any sort of comments that you have around these results, because some surprises probably to some.
Yeah, I think that Portsmouth game is both games were quite a surprise really for the distance between the two sides. Portsmouth getting the 20-6 win, and then Brunel getting the 20-6 win as well. But no, that Portsmouth one, we've both seen it. Both these sides have struggled so far this season. Exeter did look strong against Brunel, but ultimately lost. And Portsmouth from the start of the season haven't looked like they did last year. And, maybe this is kind of like a kickstart to their season. You hope it is anyways, and they can start to compete a lot more. And then when you look at the other one, I think last week we spoke about in depth and just how big this game was, and he lived up to that. I think that Brunel, they're looking to go back to that. They want to really take it to this Prem South, and they've seen that they can do already this season. I think, have they beaten every team so far now? Or, yeah. Yep. So, they've proven that they can beat anybody. And going to SGS is not I can't remember the last time that they lost at home, if I'm honest. It's got to be a fair few years ago now, maybe never in BUCS football. So yeah, to go to SGS and beat them the way they did, it shows that they are really there for, to challenge in the playoffs and get promoted.
It's mightily impressive result, that, isn't it? Imagine going up to the Premiership for the first time of asking. Obviously, we're not in the national tier here, but we're in the Prem. We're in the top of the country. In the first 5 weeks of the season, considering these guys played week 1 as well. So in the first 5 weeks of the season, playing 4 games against every single opponent in your division and coming out 4-0, and you take into the back half of the season a 2 touchdown head-to-head over SGS, who we all said should be in the national this time last year, right? And they've got to go and face all of them again, who they've already beaten by an average of 25 points a game. That's one hell of a start, isn't it? And so, Stuart, how surprised are you at the Portsmouth Exeter result? Because yes, we haven't got that many data points to go by, really, have we? Brunel have ran the table so far. They beat Exeter, but Exeter managed to put 20 points on Brunel. SGS could only manage 6, and Portsmouth, who started off in a very unimpressive fashion, have beaten them by 2 touchdowns. So, are these the 2 relegation battles?
It left me scratching my head, if I'm honest. It was like, okay, where have Exeter gone? What have they done? Sort of like, how has this ended up this way? Fair play to Portsmouth for coming out and getting this result. It looks like they've kind of stopped that funk and sort of worked on a lot of stuff at training and on film and stuff like that. They've probably scouted Exeter really well based on the film they had of the game against Brunel. And maybe they've kind of done what Brunel did to Exeter as well. I mentioned last week about Brunel sort of using their sort of open playbook where they had talent at receiver and running back. It might be that Portsmouth have done the same. Again, it wasn't on film. We haven't seen it, unfortunately. But it might be that Portsmouth have identified a couple of weaknesses of Exeter and sort of tried to keep away from that defensive line that was so strong against Brunel. So, yeah. And then just coming back to that SGS Brunel game, I think this kind of rubber stamps SGS's decision to not take their place in a national Prem this season. They obviously knew what was happening inside their program and what was going to happen this year. And I think this just shows that if they had have gone up, they may well have suffered like the likes of Loughborough and Beckett have done this year. That's not saying that they'd have lost by as many points, but the whole idea of a national Prem is that it's competitive. It's got these close fought tight games. I know we're not seeing that in a few cases here, but if SGS had have been added to that mix, we'd have seen less competitive fixtures, I think. So I think this just shows that they knew what was going on in their program the back end of last year, and this decision was probably made for the right reasons, I think.
It's interesting. I think I'm still power rating SGS over the bottom of those national sides. Probably. I think I'm bumping Brunel for this than dropping SGS too much, I've got to say. But I take your point, because at the end of the day, that they are where they are, and they've taken 1 loss already, which is something that they didn't do last year, isn't it? So we'll see how that all fares. So interesting results in the Prem. We've got plenty to get to in Tier 1, so let's get straight to that. Whew. We actually didn't lose any Tier 1 fixtures last weekend, but there was a happy smorgasbord of results across the tier. Stuart, I'll give you first dibs here, because I tend to always give Isaac Tier 1 first up. I'll give you this time. I feel as if there is a headline result here, but I don't want to take the words out of your mouth, so I will let you pick which ones you want to go to first.
You say smorgasbord. There's some wild results, and then there's some ridiculously close results, isn't there? I think for me, I don't know whether this is going to vindicate what you just said. I think probably the Hearts OBU game. I think I knew it was going to be close. I knew it was going to be tight based on the 2 results that we'd seen, Hearts Birmingham and OBU coming into the OBU Birmingham game. I think that's probably the closest data point we've got between the 2 teams. And I think Hearts are really sort of putting their head above the parapet with this result and going, you know what? We're here for this division. Yes, OBU, the new boys coming in, have sort of got a couple of really good results, but they've not sort of played common teams. And I think this one kind of shows that step up that OBU have made. We kind of saw on film what they were like against Birmingham and what that game was like. I'd have loved to have seen film on this one as well, because Hearts, this is no offence to them, it's a horrible place to go and play football. The AstroTurf is in the kind of away from the sports centres. It's kind of on the end of 2 or 3 pitches, so it's really open, it's really windy, it's really cold. Been there 3 or 4 times, and all of them, it's a horrible place to go and play football. And as a home team, you can use that to your advantage. Not to mention the 2 or 3 wires that go across the pitch that they don't take down during the game. So if you hit that, you lose your down or you replay it. But fair play to Hearts, they've come out victorious in this one that they just didn't quite manage to do against the Lions a couple of weeks ago. So for me, that's probably the standout in the South.
It's certainly one of the interesting factors to consider in the South, isn't it? Especially when we're trying to think about these rankings and these opinion polls. You know, we had OBU flying high, didn't we? And we'll obviously get into that. But the Hertfordshire Hurricanes coming in now at 2-1 with a win over said OBU. That's an interesting thought to add to your mix, isn't it? Really. So Isaac, what about you? You've got to talk about it, surely.
What, Liverpool versus MMU?
Not that one, no.
No, so the Sheffield Hallam Warriors against Sheffield Sabres, 50-0 in the Steel City derby to Hallam. It's completely different from what we've seen from both sides so far this season, isn't it? Really, you know, we've seen that Sheffield can grind out a victory against Leicester, and that they have the opportunity to show how good they are in teams against Derby. And Hallam last week, was that just a blip? Were it first game jitters? Were it, you know, a chance? Just, you know, I don't know what it was, but this week they've come and just blown Sabres out of the water and really shown how strong they can be, and that we saw it in the last season. But no, the MMU game is big as well. Okay, right, it kind of separates them a little bit higher from from the relegation zone that Liverpool and Edge now find themselves in. So that's quite big, and it's not a massive score either if it gets close at the end of the season.
100%. I mean, like that kind of reaffirms that Sheffield Hallam Warriors Sheffield game kind of reaffirms kind of what we thought pre-season. We kind of thought, and probably most would have thought, that it was going to be Green and the Warriors at the top. Then obviously we got that one loss last week, Green versus Warriors, and then Sheffield Sabres came out, beat the other two. So maybe now actually we've now learned that it's Green and Warriors. Green have currently got the head-to-head over that. Then it's the Sabres. Then it's the other two. And maybe that's where we find ourselves now. And actually, it does make me rethink Sheffield, the Sabres. They had a fantastic two first games, but that's a punch in the mouth, isn't it? That they've just had from a well-established Tier 1 team and a very good Sheffield Hallam team as well for many, many years. And yeah, it's a shame to see that Raptors fall again without scoring, as well as going to another loss, which is obviously very tricky. And I'm sure I know what the weather was like up here in Liverpool. I'm only 10 minutes away from Skelmersdale. I know how bad it was up here, and that wouldn't have been a passing game for sure. Before we move on for Tier 1, any other results you want to touch upon? Either of you?
If any of the Scottish listeners are listening and they've recovered from last night's World Cup qualifier that was phenomenal, just in case anybody didn't catch it, that Edinburgh derby that surprised me in terms of the disparity in scoreline. The Mavericks have kind of been competing at the top with sort of like the Stirlings, Glasgows, and the Knights at the top of that one. And I think the Knights have really come out and, excuse the pun, sort of charged all over the Mavericks on this one, winning 42-6. I also didn't say the scoreline of the Hurricanes Oxford game, which was 21-14 for those that are listening rather than watching. But yeah, the Edinburgh Knights have really come out, and we've said a few times that they are sort of key contenders this year. And I think this one really turns heads and really says, okay, yeah, we're here. Let's really go now and kick on. And I think they're one of 3 or 4, maybe 5 teams who are sort of really up with contention. I'm just quickly flicking over to a different spreadsheet. 1, 2, 3. What have we got? 4, 5 unbeaten teams, 6 unbeaten teams, because Bournemouth are all the way down there, aren't they? So yeah, 6 unbeaten teams in Tier 1 that are really looking forward to playoffs now. I know they won't be because of, next week's the only week that counts in a coaching mantra. But I guarantee someone in that program is looking forward to going, okay, play it out. How does my playoffs come about in sort of February and March time?
Well, thinking about those seedings as well, which are all important in certainly in this tier within the north and the south, isn't it? When was the last time the Kent Falcons scored over 50 points? If you are listening, if you are watching, let me know, because the image that I have of the Kent Falcons is a defensive team that grinds out results. Yeah, they can actually, they can win by some margin. I had a quick peek at last year, for instance. They did have some 20 odd point wins and so on. But when was the last time you did a burger donut? I need to know, because that blew my mind, because that's not the image I have of the Kent Falcons. So if you do know, please let me know, because it'll change my thought of you forever and a day. Congratulations to you guys. They won 54-0 against UCL. But guys, can you remember the last time Kent Falcons scored 50 points?
Coach Gibbs isn't Kent. Coach Gibbs isn't Kent Falcons involved, is he? I think it's probably too far for him. But somebody will know. If not, we can drop the team a message and find out. But yeah, I was watching those scores tick along on the Instagram reels, and that was just crazy. It was like 7, 14, 21, 28. Like that, I think it was before half time, and I was like, "Ooh, wow, okay." It was a late kickoff as well, so I was sat in the warmth of my house after sitting through the cold of watching a game that we're going to come on to.
Yeah, 100%. So interesting. Anything else from tier 1 before we move on to tier 2?
No.
Happy. Let's have a little look at tier 2 then. We did lose the Staffordshire Stallions LJMU Fury game, so we have to wait another week before we see the John Moores Fury, and we didn't get to see the 12-12 draw between Yorkshire and the Sunderland Spartans. So Isaac, out of the rest, which results do you want to touch upon here?
It's just how impressive Cambridge have been able to keep this run going. We saw last year that there were that third, maybe fourth team in the Midlands, and now this year it's them and AIU like battling it out. Yes, there might have been bagpipes on the sidelines in the first game, but in this one they've gone to DMU and they've shown how strong they can be. Yeah, I think maybe in context you can say it is DMU. They're not, with great respect in the world, they're not the greatest team in the world. It's not a massive upset, but to still go there and still perform how they have done puts them in really, really good stead for the rest of the season and puts a bit of pressure on AIU.
Yeah, 100%, doesn't it? And we still don't really know what that sort of tier structure looks like within that division yet, do we? But we're getting a bit of a sense that it might be a 2-horse race between Cambridge and AIU in that division. Stuart, what about yourself?
The Southeast again proves to be the division where no one can sort of score 20 points or more. City nearly get there. There's them and Imperial who have had 19 points as the highest scoring teams this year. So either the Southeast don't like to score or defenses are phenomenal. Their table looks something akin to a soccer table as well. The points down the the right hand side, Imperial are on 4, City on 3, Quimble on 2, and Greenwich on 1. And then Essex, who came.
So nice.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's fair.
Great job, guys.
It's really good to see.
Symmetry is strong. I'll let them have that. But yeah, Essex coming down and losing their first 2 games. Obviously, you never like to see it. I just hope that sort of program is focusing within and they can look to pick up a result here or there. I know obviously you can't go down from tier 2, but you'd never really want to have an unbeaten season. So yeah, I hope that they can bounce back and pick up a result somewhere. As I mentioned, I went out into the cold and I stayed close to home. I had to get myself out of the house and away from my lad who had an awful rugby tournament in the morning. So I went around the corner to Stourport and watched the Royals versus Bullets game, as a couple of you might have seen on the live stories. Really interesting game. I'm not quite sure what the Bullets 2s were doing. in certain points. They were trying things. That's probably what they were doing, if I'm honest. Again, second year head coach, actually, who has worked with one of the guys that's just commented over on YouTube. It looks like the same guy that has worked together at Sandwell. David Butler has commented over on YouTube, so thank you very much for that. Pop into the comments as well, guys, if you want us to sort of mention or shout you out. But they've Coach Butler and Coach Astley have worked together on the air raid that Bullets run, and you could see that was covering across. Bullets completed on 5 or 6 really nice passes from their quarterback to number 14, the wide receiver, and then they had a guy at running back number 3 who was just literally like a wrecking ball. But it was on an 80-yard field. Thank you for the comment. It was on an 80-yard field, so whenever Worcester punted the ball in the first half, the Bullets didn't have a returner back, so the punt was literally flipping the field and pinning the Bullets back inside their own like 15 or 10-yard line, which meant they then had to go 60 yards to score a touchdown, and they just couldn't quite do it. At the end of the game, there was a huge to-in and fro-in that I tried to put into our group chat, and I still had to do it as a voice note because you couldn't type it out. It was that ridiculous. Worcester got down to about the 2-yard line. The score was 7-12 at this time, by the way. Worcester got down to about the 2-yard line, ran it in for a touchdown that got called back for holding. So it kicked them back out to the 12. Their quarterback was injured, so their star receiver was in at quarterback playing Wildcat. They run a 21 personnel offense, so really condensed, and Huey had shut it down all game. But this quarterback was literally getting the ball and just sprinting out, and he was picking up a handful of yards every now and again. They went for a field goal on 4th down. Apparently, it wasn't a fake field goal by all accounts, but everybody on the sideline was expecting a fake field goal. They caught the ball and turned towards the end zone to make a footballing move. The receiver fumbled it, and Huey recovered it. So they got the ball back on about their own 4 or 5 yard line. Huey picked up a first down and then threw an interception to the same guy that was playing Wildcat quarterback. The same guy that caught the interception then got tackled by his own player. Otherwise, he'd have probably gone in for a touchdown. And then after that, Worcester just couldn't force the ball into the end zone. It was, typical Tier 2 or Div 2 football in adult ball. It was fun to watch. It wasn't pretty by any stretch of the imagination. It was fun to watch, and the game finished 7-12. There was also a couple of pass interference calls that helped Worcester out a little bit, gain a couple of other first downs automatically, both of which I thought were really good calls. Being a referee, I might say that. But yeah, I thought they were very good PI calls. It was good fun. It was good fun.
Sounds like a humdinger.
I was just like absolutely mind blown. How it finished 7-12, I'll never know. But yeah, I'm also refereeing this weekend, so I get to talk more about another game. I won't preview it, but I will say that I'm covering it. But yeah, that was amazing. KD, the initials that they were using for this sort of star receiver, do it all guy for Worcester. Yeah, he looked, and I think he actually played for the head coach of UE Bullets at Sandwell, just to complete a circle that goes around. Midlands football, kind of everybody knows everybody. It's crazy. So yeah, KD, if you're listening, watching, or anybody is, shout out to him. He seemed like one of 3 or 4 guys on the Worcester squad. And then I've already named a few of the Bullets guys that really sort of stood out to me on the day.
Class. Brilliant. Great to have that insight into that game. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Reading 2-0 as well. Bounce back season for them. Let's continue to watch what's happening in that division, which has only really started getting going. There's only been a few results from that division in the first few weeks, but it'd be wrong of me not to mention your unbeaten start so far. So congratulations to you guys. So interesting breakdown of the results there. Anything else to add before we move on for those results? Should we break down the writers' poll, which we love to do every week? So to remind everybody, we get together with 2 other outlets, Depth Chart Sports and I always get this wrong, First Down magazine, and so we get together with them. Depth Chart Sports collate the results from all the opinions that are out there, and then they provide us with the writers' poll. The rights poll that we're going to show you is before this weekend's results because it's yet to be published this week. And then we'll talk about how we think that they'll be affected by the results that have just happened. Might give away some of our opinions as well in the meantime. So let's have a little look here at the top 5, which we always start off with, don't we? And as we probably expected and could have predicted, Gold jump UE Bullets because they had head-to-head. The on the field results matter, don't they? But I wouldn't be too shocked if it didn't change. But that's the only change across the top 5. Guys, maybe bump to Isaac first. Surprised by this, but also, are you expecting any changes this week?
I'm not surprised by it. I think that's about right. We've the head-to-head. Gold got that. Durham still number 3. Loughborough and Beckett haven't done enough to stay in the top 5, and the 2 top teams in the Prem North and South have done. So I think I think this week it might change though. I think I could see potentially Durham jumping above UE after their result at Loughborough. But yeah, only time will tell.
That's an interesting thought, actually. The one that I hadn't given much thought to, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, where I've got Durham as that almost like 1A, almost like 1B to the 1A of Golden UE, and I'm just waiting for that time to bump them up. And I'm wondering whether that's after this weekend's results as well. But I'm not quite sure I'm there yet. That they're top 2, but you've got a 2-0 Nottingham, 3-0 Nottingham.
3-0.
A 3-0 Nottingham, a 2-0 Durham, and UE the only ones with a loss out of those 3. So you can appreciate why some may do that without giving away our ballots, of course. Stuart, anything else to add there for those top 5?
Nope, I think Isaac pretty much covered it in a nutshell. I like it.
Awesome. Let's quickly move on then to the top 15. So to break down the latter half of the top 10, we've got SGS Pride coming in at 6, NTU Renegades at 7, Loughborough at 8, Cardiff at 9, and Newcastle Raiders rounding off the top 10. Same questions to you, Stuart. Any surprises there? Quite a lot of movers, I suppose. And what do you expect this weekend's results to affect that top 10?
I was just doing a count. There's 7 teams there that have moved up a place or more in this 10. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. We'll come on to the next bit in a minute to see who's probably slid down. But I think these are now becoming more results driven. And I think people are looking at, okay, if these 2 teams played on paper against each other, now people are starting to come up with that. And I think we're starting to see these teams settle where they may well finish post-Christmas, let's say. Raiders up 4. Rams up 4. Rams I can get. Like they're on a hot streak. They look like a real strong team as well. OBU and Bournemouth towards the bottom there, up 3 each. Big movers, big shakers, and I can kind of get on board with it. Raiders is the only one that I'm sort of interested in. I'm trying to quickly flick back.
They've only played one game, haven't they?
They've only really played one. So again, that's probably about the only one for me that stands out that I'm sort of almost questioning.
It's more of a opinion base, that, isn't it? You're looking at, if you compare the Newcastle Raiders to the Lancashire Rams, the only thing that's really separating them is that one is in the Prem and one isn't. Isn't it really? But I suppose the question could be posed if Rams played Newcastle on a neutral field tomorrow. Would there be a close game? Probably, right? But we don't know much about Newcastle at this point. We keep getting told that we shouldn't sleep on them, which always brings a smile to inside Britball. But nonetheless, I think that's where I go with this is that, because I still see at this point Lancashire Rams are a Prem side. That's in my head. I see them as a Prem side. They are doing everything that's being asked of them in Tier 1. Certainly this year. Last year they had difficulties with some of their opposition. Obviously, it doesn't come to my head quick enough to put that in there. But nonetheless, I think they're showing that they are a Prem side at this point.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Northumbria
I'm sure.
and Stirling.
I'm sure Bournemouth and I'm sure Napier would have something to say about that. But
And Greens.
I see where you're going. Yeah, and Greens. Yeah, Greens still unbeaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't even got onto this bottom half of the graphic. Lancashire Rams being 11, Napier Knights being 12, Demons being 13, OBU being 14, coming up 3 spots, and Bournemouth being 15th. To me, I think Bournemouth are far too low. I think 15 is a massive understatement, from my opinion, for the Bournemouth Bobcats, and certainly does not reflect my ballot in any way, shape, or form. They're getting closer. They're getting closer to where I have them, but they're nowhere near. But again, I can understand why they're there. If you are putting so much on the Prem National being the Prem National for a reason that it's called the Prem National, the same with the Premiership, I understand. But we're trying to create a rankings of 25 out of 75, aren't we? So it's difficult to not segregate those tiers then, isn't it? But Isaac, do you want to jump in?
I wonder whether the points deduction for Bournemouth is playing on a few people's minds here, whether they're thinking actually they can't make playoffs, or, well, they're going to find it really difficult to make playoffs. Let's phrase it that way. Therefore, they may not be as high in the tiering structure that we've talked about in the weeks gone past. I think that tier is now working its way out in terms of now being results driven. But yeah, I just wonder whether that points deduction, which they've now erased completely, by the way, has now sort of playing on people's minds. I just wonder whether the writers start looking at their path and whether they can make playoff football, and they start to jump, I don't know, maybe into tens or early single digits, maybe.
They have to be perfect, don't they? So to answer your question, Isaac, which I heard, they have to be perfect. They will have to go 8-0 to stand a chance. To look back at last year, the 7 to 9 seeds all finished with 8 points, and then the 6 seed was 10. So, you know, they're to get into those 4 to 6 bracket, if you like, the 4 to 6 seed, they'll need help from other people across the division. So, it's certainly going to be a difficult task to go 8-0, you know, but you wouldn't put it past them at all, would you?
Exactly. If they're going to be in the playoffs, it's definitely going to be one of the lower seed. But even then, I still expect them to go quite far. I think that in Div 1, you've got a group of 5 or 6 teams where you look at the Rams, you look at Edinburgh Napier, Bournemouth, Brooks, and Greens, where they're like the top of tier 1, and you're kind of thinking that they could go up against each other and easily beat each other. And I think that Bournemouth definitely play into that, especially if they go into one of them, into them lower seeds into the playoffs. They can still go quite far, even to the final.
Personally, I think we started talking at Rams. I think once you go past that, past the top 10, maybe past the top 11 or 12, it's a complete crapshoot, isn't it? Like I'm looking at, you know, I know Depth Chart Sports are waiting on my ballot because I've forgotten to do it, but you know, that gap between maybe 24 and 12, those middle 12, I think they could beat each other on any given day. It's just a case of who you've got in that group, isn't it? I suppose. Any other expectations going into this week's poll that you're expecting?
Exeter Demons to drop out of the top 15, most likely. Okay. I think that their big loss to Portsmouth that are in the top 15. I think.
I understand.
They'll either be 15 or they'll drop out of the 15. I think I could see that Greens maybe push up in there and stuff like that, but no, I could see pretty much that staying as it is for now.
Yeah.
And then, or maybe Loughborough dropping a couple of places, maybe. But apart from that, yeah.
Everyone thinks their poll is right?
Yeah.
So everyone thinks their ballot is right. So if you've got
mine isn't.
Well, certainly not week 1 anyway.
Yeah. This one currently isn't.
ARU at number 1's a bit risky, isn't it?
That's team in the country.
Brilliant. Yeah, and if you do have Exeter at 13 and then Portsmouth have gone and beaten them, right? Bearing in mind that we haven't even talked about Portsmouth and they're in the and we're at the 15 at this point, then you're probably going to ding it, aren't you? If you've rated them so low in your own ballot as well. Let's have a little look at the rest of the 25. So 16 down to 25. Northumbria Mustangs drop like a stone, 7 points to 16. You've got Leeds Griffins at 17. 18 is Portsmouth Destroyers. Brighton come in at 19. Green up to 20. Edinburgh Mavericks there hanging on to 21. Manchester Tyrants 22. Sheffield Sabres drop to 13. And a Prem national side plummet all the way to 24 of the writers' poll and sit just above a new entrant to the Hertfordshire Hurricanes.
Yeah.
What?
I agree.
So bearing in mind that this is an average, that means that some people didn't have Leeds Beckett, a Prem national side, in their top 25. Discuss.
They are, over the last 2 years, no matter what division you're looking, no matter what, even you can include adult ball, they're the worst side for record and for points differential in the last 2 years. Now, if you listen to the rumours and you can hear a lot about that and the players they've lost and the coaches they've lost and what's going on with that programme, then I think it's not a case of people thinking these lot are 0-3, conceded, 100 plus points. It's a thing of the programme itself is I won't say failing, but is doing bad. I think more people have ranked it on that rather than where others it's more results based. I think that if you asked anybody, and I think as writers we're quite lucky about like choosing who goes in our top 25s, but if you asked anyone who's got an interest in books or got an interest in Brit ball as a whole, I think they'd agree that Leeds Beckett, that they should have been relegated last year. You look at SGS or even Warwick should have been given the chance to play against them and take them down to the Prem North. But definitely, it's just a bit, I kind of understand why they're so low, and I can understand that, maybe in a couple of weeks' time that they are completely off the board.
We just don't know where their floor is and where their ceiling is, do we? We have no idea what is happening with this program, and therefore it is a guess. This is just a vibes vote, isn't it, at this point? Because they are in the Prem National, right?
Yeah.
By default, because SGS didn't go up, right? They would be in the Prem North if it wasn't for that default, and there was expectations of improvement. There was expectations of things going better in that program, and it just hasn't happened. Are they a worse team than Edinburgh Mavericks? Are they a worse team than Sheffield Sabres? I don't know that. That's the simple answer. I don't know. So I don't have a problem with people taking them off the ballot. I just think it's a ballsy move to do so with the Prem National side.
Sure.
But
Bold strategy, Con.
Bold strategy, Stuart.
I'm in your boat, Andy. I think it is a bold move. Certainly to drop them down as far as 24. I did drop them. I moved them down, but I think I'm one of the people keeping them on this board of 25 because I kept them reasonably high based on the Prem National title and thinking about would they beat the likes, as you just said, would they beat the likes of Manchester Tyrants, Edinburgh Mavericks, Sheffield Sabres, and some of the teams 5 to 15 as well, would they beat them? I still think they've got enough on their roster because they're still scoring points against these Prem National teams. So they're still going to have some sort of offense, right? They're not conceding the 104 points they conceded against UE last year. So I think that they would hold their own against a lot of these teams in the 25. It's just trying to work out who they would come up against and do all right against. I believe they scrimmaged against the Griffins in pre-season it'd be interesting to know how that game turned out, because I think that would give us a good yardstick, excuse the pun, to find out, it would only be an 80 yardstick, by the way, in Leeds. But yeah, it would just be interesting to know.
I think
in 2 years, though, in 11 games, right, they've scored 30 points. They've conceded 700 points.
Yeah,
right. This is the issue. How far down is that floor? And I can understand that this year, writers, experts, whatever you want to call them, the guys with an opinion, when they lost to UE by 62, when they lost to Nottingham by over 30, and then went and got trounced by Durham, which, by the way, are by far the top 3 in the country. So there's no mean feat going out there playing these guys. But when that happens, you've then got to try and fit them in somewhere. And I don't blame people for ranking them lower than Newcastle, Cardiff, maybe even Lancashire and Bournemouth, who, we are very high on in tier 1. Is that where they sit? Yeah, it's just a really interesting talking point at this point, which is why I wanted to stop here, obviously.
I think it goes back to what I was saying, where people are voting on it based on results or who could beat who. I think it's all just on. We're trying to understand what's happening behind the scenes. And I think it's one thing that we obviously, it's not like other sports. It's not like football or rugby where we kind of know what's going on. People talk about it. We don't know with this sort of stuff. We don't know what coaches have gone, who's stayed, what players have gone, what's the roster looking like, because and that'd probably help us out a lot more if they just told us, yeah, we lost this coach, we lost it, we lost that player, whatever. But I think because we don't know that and we're just getting rumours, and it's a thing of, of the players they've lost, I think that's why they're so low now. That all the hope that they had at the start of the season, all of a sudden is just gone. And it went realistically in week 1, where it did take quite a heavy beating. I think a lot of people thought it could be a lot closer than it was. And after that heavy beating had taken, it's kind of a thing of now, like, what is their ceiling? And right now it's not a high one.
In all fairness, though, to be fair, Isaac, we haven't actually asked them what's gone on. We haven't dropped them a DM and said, "Hey guys, do you want to talk to us? Do you want to tell us what's going on?" So, yeah, might be worth sort of reaching out and just seeing if they want to give us some information. I might do that. It's not a bad idea, and then we can sort of share it with everybody when we know, and if they want us to share it. To be fair,
yeah, it's always difficult to get comments out of a team that's obviously trying to keep it together. I remember we get it every Saturday and Sunday night, don't we, Stuart, where we try and get some snippets from the team that lost, and they're just like, on to the next, and you're like, okay, never mind. So yeah, maybe we should, but let's finish on a positive note. Who, based on this weekend's results, who are you expecting that we might see in the top 25 this week who are missing from this poll?
Hallam,
yeah, fair.
MU. No, I'm only joking. ARU.
Why not?
ARU
because you put them 1.
No, I didn't. I put them 25, but I thought of my idea afterwards. But no,
Hallam definitely.
I could see
Kent
that.
were on there.
Kent,
on there, were they?
I was just going to say Kent. I'm looking through my weeks, and Kent have appeared.
Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
Well, they're all on there, 25, aren't they?
Yeah, but they can. I think they'll go up. I think that Green will go up. I think Edinburgh might drop off. Edinburgh.
Okay.
It's a new name. Yeah, maybe they should be on there for a couple of weeks, but you took a heavy loss to Edinburgh Napier. And
do you think Sabres are going to get dinged badly for that result? They're still only 2-1, aren't they?
I mean, I hope not, but
yeah,
I could see it happening. But yeah, it's gonna.
I wonder whether people will sort of target Trent for their postponement, whether they sort of see, oh, well, actually Trent only play on grass and they're not looking to develop and this and that, and just go against them in that way. That's kind of the only one that could potentially be a bit of a talking point if they do. They shouldn't, in my opinion, and they certainly haven't slid in mine. They haven't moved at all. But I'm just wondering whether people look at that and think, well, are Trent getting better? Are they improving? Have they improved? Or, is it just Storm Claudia coming to banish people to the postponement games?
Fair. Yeah, interesting. Anyway, I better get my ballot in, so let's wrap this up quick. I know you guys want to watch whatever it's called, Get Me Out of Here, whatever it's called. I haven't watched that in about 10 years. So let's quickly move on to exactly.
It hasn't changed in about 10 years either.
Exactly. There's just the guests have got worse by the looks of it.
Whoa.
So looking on to week 6 then, let's have a little gander of what we got. We've got a busy slate across all tiers. Prem National. Oh, what an interesting Prem National week we've got, haven't we? Who wants first bite of this to point out a couple of fixtures that they're interested in?
Go on, Stuart. I'll give it to you.
Oh, you're so kind. I'm not going to comment on Warwick NTU because that's where I am at on Saturday afternoon. So I shall let Isaac take that tasty morsel of a game on that one. Loughborough Leeds Beckett is being live streamed by BUCS Sports. I don't know whether that is going to be free to air or whether that's going to be paywalled. We'll find out. For me, it's got to be the Bullet Saints game that I mentioned as we were sort of talking earlier. I think that's going to show us what Durham are all about. We know what UE are like. They'll come out fighting. I can imagine that's going to be ridiculously spicy as well. We normally find a stream for the Bullets games. So it'd be interesting to see, and we'll share it if we do get it. I don't know what time that kickoff is, whether it's a similar sort of time to my game in Warwick and whether I can watch it. If not, it'll be on YouTube. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that one. Seeing what Durham are all about. It's a heck of a trip, that, isn't it, from Durham down to Bristol.
That's why it's on a Saturday, isn't it? Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, evening. I haven't got BUCS Play open, so I can't check the kickoff score. Kickoff score? Wow. Kickoff time.
Wow.
But yeah,
what a game!
What a game that's going to be.
Isn't that going to be an incredible game? And we'll get an idea of where Durham are at, probably. That it feels like that's what we're doing at the moment, isn't it? We're trying to suss out what is Durham. Is Durham a top 3 within that mix, and they're going to upset a few people that may have not have predicted them in the preseason, or are they the middle tier again as they found themselves last year? Which I think is fair to say. But that's going to be an incredible game, isn't it? That's going to be offensive firestorms, isn't it? And we'll find out how good either defense is when they come up against both these offenses in these games. Isaac, what about yourself?
I'll comment on the Warwick NTU game. We've seen this already so far this season. With Warwick coming out on top in week 1, well, that long time ago. But I think NTU really improved. I've no players who play there, and they've spoke about how they've kind of helped but tweak the offense, especially. And now with their American QB as well, and everything happened in the last game where that last second play, and it kind of helps them. And I think Warwick will just be looking to do what they've done all season, get another win, push on, and just see how far they can go again. And then you look, in further north in that division, Newcastle Derby, they're taking place at Northumbria. It's going to be interesting because we saw that Northumbria start the season. We thought they were going to come in and do what they've done the last 2 years, promotion. But no, and the Newcastle, we haven't seen them since week 1. It's going to be big. Are they going to be the same that we saw in week 1? Are they going to, are we going to have to watch out for them like we keep being told? Or, are Northumbria going to, put them in the place and show how good Northumbria can be? That one's definitely going to be an interesting one as well. And hopefully that one's live streamed with a better camera angle for you, Stuart.
Yeah, no, it's a really fascinating slate of games in this Premiership tier, which is why we've kind of paused here and talked about every single game, because they've all got major repercussions. We haven't even talked about the Exeter Cardiff, which some people would have been putting this down as a relegation battle, at the beginning of the season. But Cardiff have showed up in their first 2 games for sure this season, and okay, they got trounced by who we're thinking are one of the better teams in the whole entire tier. But and then the other was SGS. But if Cardiff can come away with a win here, that probably is going a big step towards saving them, isn't it? In this tier, and then you've got your Exeter Demons, who will be, after that loss to Portsmouth, trying to hold on to Premiership life, right? So interesting. Tier 1, woo!
Yeah,
loads of games. There's got to be some postponements across this weekend. That's too many games to get out in one weekend, surely.
I couldn't make my mind up whether to do this as 2 graphics or 1, and in the end, it just about fitted into 1. So this is it. This is the most.
Isaac, go on, keep going.
I don't want to use my homer pick. Let's go Bristol Plymouth. That's a lot of the games that have involved these 2 teams have been 1-score games. That's it. Literally 1 score. And I'm talking like 7-0 or 6-0 or something like that. Not 1-score difference, just 1 score in general. So it'd be interesting to see how this one turns out. Will Plymouth travel? Will they find an offense? They've kind of had low scores across all of their games from sort of last year and this year. So it'd be interesting to see if they can find an offense, and then obviously whether Bristol can sort of explode again. They're another team who kind of just about score enough to win games. So that one for me is probably going to be my close game of the week in the Southwest. My highest scoring game across all of these games is probably going to be Kent Brighton. I can see that absolutely going off the clock. If you give me an over under of 50, Andy, I'm going to struggle to decide. Or it's just going to be really, really disappointing and it's going to finish like 7-6. So, yeah, I'm really hoping
Kent scored all their points last week.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they've played all their cards. They've shown their hand. But yeah, that one I think will kind of show us where the Southeast is at and where those 2 teams are sat towards the top of it, and who's looking for the spoils in that division.
Awesome. Isaac, what about you? What fixtures stand out across Tier 1 this weekend?
I mean, it stands out, but kind of for like the wrong reasons. Edge Hill versus Liverpool. Both sides have looked poor so far this season, and it gives them a chance to start their season fresh. It gives them a chance to basically prove that they're not just relegation fodder, and that teams like Lancashire and Manchester can walk all over them. I mean, that's going to be a really interesting one, especially when you think that 3 teams from the 3 teams between the Northern and Midlands division go down. And right now, if I'm not wrong, I think it's going to be Edge Hill and Liverpool, probably the 2 of the 3 anyways. And then you look at the Midlands as well, and you got Nottingham Green. They need to carry on what they've done. Yes, they might be helped by a couple of gold players and to cover injuries that they've got, but definitely I think that they are just going to keep having to push on what they're doing and keep showing why they should be pushing up and higher up the opinion poll.
Bournemouth, you've got 1 more game, then you get a bye.
Please win.
5 games on the bounce.
Last man standing, you are mate.
You must win for Isaac's last man standing.
Yeah.
You've got the Bath Killer Bees, but you get a rest next week. I wonder if your coach is going to let you have the weekend off as well. But well done to you guys for being able to do 5 in a row. Jesus. You get 1 week off, and then you get 1 week off. 1 week off, and then you're back at it for 1 more before the Christmas break, which is coming in really quick, isn't it? I'm with you guys. I think you've pointed out most of the things that I was looking at there. That some very interesting ones, and we will see if that fixture at the top of the graphic goes ahead. They're not a real team until they play a game, are they? Really? Let's have a little look. Let's have a look.
It's not even a bull. It's like an angel bull. It's like a bull with wings. It's really weird, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not a real bull.
Isaac, I've moved on. Right, Tier 2.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
It was ARI.
Oh no!
I don't know.
Oh, never mind.
I don't know.
It said
Cheers,
cooked as well.
proofreaders.
Yeah, cheers.
I never said it was
proofreaders.
okay.
Anyway, that's all right. ARU.
Yeah.
But anyway, Isaac. I wonder what fixture you're going to point out.
I wonder. Well, it's Cambridge ARU. It's the two top teams of the Midlands going against each other. I think that this week that Midlands 2A really looks interesting because you've also got Coventry against Lincoln. Both sides not had the best start, but definitely got enough time to turn their season around. You'd expect Coventry to be one of the favourites up at the top of the division after being in the Prem, 2-3 years ago maybe. To see them all the way down here is kind of strange. It's the same with Lincoln. They've been knocking the door for the last couple of years, but currently AIU and Cambridge are the ones pushing the top, and it's going to be really interesting how this division looks at the end of this week, and just to see if what happens, and also if the bagpipes come back out, because if they do Cambridge, I'll be a huge fan of that.
100%. And Stuart, I can see you've muted yourself there, but do you want to jump in, point out any fixtures that stand out to you here, if there's any more than that Midlands fight for the top?
Yeah, there's a few creaks coming from upstairs. The phantom dog that's barking in the background is not on my mic, so hopefully you didn't hear that one on mine. Welcome to the party, Bath Spa. The Bulldogs finally get to play. That's if their pitch is playable. I've been to Bath Spa a few times, and I keep making the joke that it is literally on a hill. It is. We'll get to see whether Swansea can back up their victory against Worcester from, I think, was week 2 or week 3. So yeah, all the slate of games this week is ridiculously competitive. I'm interested to see if this game is as competitive as I think everything else is going to be. I hope it is. Bath Spa have always sort of competed. They've always played, to be fair to them. But it'd be interesting to see if that's competitive. And then down in the Southern 2A, Surrey and Sussex, battle of the undefeateds. Granted, they are only 1-0 each, but they can still claim that undefeated title. Unless it's a draw, that's going to give up.
Speaking of draws.
Speaking of it, I really hope this isn't it. Isaac, we'll come to you in a second. I'm chomping on that tie. Don't you worry. But yeah, that's going to be a really interesting one for me. And how does Royal Holloway improve their stock? Can they beat the Chichester Sharks and sort of claw themselves back towards the top of that division in the Southern?
Mm-hmm. It was the last time these two played, Surrey and Sussex, it was the other way around. Sussex hosted, and it was 42-16 at the end of last season to Sussex, which is an interesting snippet here. And I know Surrey will be looking to try and fill that gap that Oxford Brookes obviously left. But they have Reading in that tier with them this time as well, don't they? Who, as we mentioned after last week, a 2-0, deserve their flowers, and this is a big game, isn't it, in that division for that team who are wanting to push for playoffs. And obviously across this tier, we've got third place can get into the playoffs, can't they, usually, but that top 2 is the all important decider to get you into that playoffs, and this feels like a big one already. Do they play each other again? Because they didn't last year. They only played each other once.
Good question. I don't know if they do.
They don't.
No,
they don't. So this is the reverse fixture of last year, and very, very all important if it comes to what we think is going to happen, where it's going to be one of these two joining Reading in the playoffs. A bit early to call that, Andy, but we try and do that sometimes. But plenty, isn't there? Plenty to watch out for this weekend to see how that shakes up the BUCS landscape with plenty of fixtures happening. Hopefully, we get them all. Stuart, last man standing. We're down to the final 6 or so, aren't we?
The final few, yeah. We are at 6. So I was considering putting a graphic out with 6 names, but I might do it when we get down to the final 5. I might be able to brand it better than that, unless we get stuck at 6 for like 3 or 4 weeks. Yes, 6 players. I will get the graphic out early on Friday morning again. There are loads of games on Saturday, so I will have to get it out early on Friday, so it will probably close earlier than usual. I did get BUCS play up, and I did see what time kickoffs were. I think the earliest is 3 o'clock on Saturday. Don't quote me on that one. So I might close it at something like 10 or 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. So again, I'll get the graphic done. It will go up on socials with the link. The form will be live. I'll put it live at 10 o'clock, Isaac, just so that you can access it and you don't click on it and send me something saying that it's not live. Yeah, I'll turn it live earlier and I'll close it earlier, just so that it's fair, so that people aren't picking teams while they're playing. That's 6 of you get your votes in, and we'll get it sorted. And we are whittling you down slowly but surely.
Yeah, heading into week 6 with six players for that giveaway from our sponsors EP Sports. So delighted to be getting there. Hopefully we don't see everybody disappear this week. I think Bournemouth's a good shout, Isaac. I think you'll be all right.
It is. Yeah. It's either them or Harriet Watt. It's either them or Harriet Watt. And
well, Harriet Watt might not play.
But if they don't play, I'm through. And week 7's a lot better than week 6.
2 in 3 chance.
Exactly.
Very, very, very true. Awesome. Anything else we need to get to before we get out of here?
WFFL game week. I know it's not really
Yes.
on BUCS breakdown, but yeah, there's a women's flag tournament this weekend. So good luck to everybody who's playing in that, and the guys will break that down next week. I know we started doing graphics for them, so yeah, we'll get those out on Saturday. I think all 4 tournaments actually are Saturday, aren't they? So Saturday could be this weekend could be a really busy weekend of football. But yeah, Nick, Kiwi, and the guys will break that down hopefully next week, and we'll get the pod out. You spoke to Rushmore this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Champion Series. So yeah, we finish off that Champion Series. U16s. Yeah, absolutely. 16s. So Nick, Kiwi, caught up with Glasgow Hornets last week. That podcast will drop any day now. And please head over to our YouTube channel or podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out that series where we've had a conversation with every single national champion from this summer. And Isaac and I caught up with Mark and Tango from the Rushmore Knights under 16s last night. So that will be coming to you over the next week or so as well. So delighted to be able to bring you that content, and I'm sure somebody listening or watching will learn something from these elite coaches, players, and team managers, because I love having those conversations. I know you do as well, Isaac, because you just get to listen, don't you?
Yeah, last night was an incredible one. Last night was I won't spoil it, but no, it was possibly the best one that I've been a part of so far.
Yeah, absolutely. To be able to get the opportunity to interview the likes of, the people from Jason Henry at the London Blitz in his program, Tango Lockwood in his program, and everything that's going on there. It's a great honor to be able to provide you with that. So please head on over to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, podcast platforms, and give them a listen. Let us know how we got on, what you want to hear next time, or what you want. We'll listen to the feedback for sure. But otherwise, we'll be back next week, probably this time next week. We'll let you know. We'll give you a heads up, and we'll break down week 6 and look forward to week 7 as we're hurtling towards the Christmas break. So, Stuart, Isaac, thank you very much for your insight one last time this week. And well, I say that because I had Isaac last night for the Rushmore Nights. And thank you for those who are listening, those who are watching. Thanks for those who jumped in the chat and left some comments. Come and join us in the chat next week. Let us know what we're getting wrong, what insight you can give us, and we'll catch you again next week. So take care for now.